Hey guys, welcome to another recent viewing video, and once again I gotta apologize for the lights because I'm doing this during the day, which doesn't happen very often, and the lighting is it's either too much or not enough. But anyway, as you've probably seen by the title of this, I watched Avatar. And this is my first time ever watching Avatar, even though the movie came out, I don't know how long ago. 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I feel like I should explain a little bit about me and my thoughts of Avatar pre and post, of course, watching the movie. This is a movie that I long since demanded of myself that I not watch. I wasn't going to buy into the hype. It didn't look interesting to me. I thought the CG, from what you could see in the trailers back when it came out, just looked horrible. Not quite Hulk level horrible, the first Hulk movie, but I didn't think that it was very impressive for a big budget James Cameron spectacle. And I didn't like the native look to the aliens in this movie, which I'm going to get more into because that's still a big sticking point for me. But back then, I was just like, no, it doesn't look interesting. It's overhyped, and of course, I had a really big grudge against James Cameron because of the Titanic thing, a movie that I have seen and I don't really ever plan on watching again. But I do kind of hold it against James Cameron for making what I thought were really awesome movies like Terminator 1 and 2, but then coming back later with some schlocky love film like Titanic, and of all the movies out there that had come out, it would be the one that would hit the top of the all-time highest grossing films of all time. All time? Did I say that twice? Anyway, I don't know. I guess I wanted a Star Wars or a Jurassic Park or a Matrix, or later years had hope for something like Dark Knight. Was it The Dark Knight? Was that the one that, or was it Dark Knight Returns? I don't know. One of the Dark Knight movies, anyway, looked like it was going to threaten Titanic's, or not Titanic's hold, Avatar's hold at that point, because it took James Cameron to top his own movie. Titanic goes up there, and it's up there for like 9, 10 years, and all these other movies had came out. Even re-releases of stuff like the Star Wars movies could not push them to that level. Titanic was sitting there ever since it came out, because I think it was like #1 movie in the country for 12 straight weeks. I don't know what the stats are for Avatar, but I know that Avatar was the one that bumped Titanic from the top spot. And I was just like, the same guy, didn't care for Titanic. He puts out this movie that, in my opinion, looks really weird. It just looked gross to me. Nothing about it was appealing. And then it took Titanic down from the top spot, and still holds the top spot to this day. But I had a big grudge against it. I had a big chip on my shoulder for all those other movies in the past that, in my opinion, I felt like, were kind of Avatar's big competition. And okay, it's 2009 film. I was like, I guess I have to look this up just so I can make sure I know. I can make sure that I know for sure that it's where it is. Avatar, 1 billion mark on the 19th day. 2 billion. Well, anyway, sorry. I guess I assume that it's still the top dog of them all, because when these articles and Wikipedias and stuff like that start saying, well, if we change, due to inflation or the rise in ticket prices of this or that, then it would be this. But I know that as far as earnings go, it's still the top movie in the world. It became the highest grossing film of all time. Let's see. On February 2nd, 47 days after its release, Avatar surpassed Titanic to become the highest-grossing film of all time in Canada and the United States, and of all time in 30 other countries, and is the first film to earn over $2 billion in foreign box office receipts. IMAX ticket sales account for 228, more than twice the... Well, here's the adjusted for ticket price, not adjusted for inflation. So Avatar is the top dog. With Titanic second, Jurassic World sits at third, Avengers, Dark Knight, Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars, Avengers Age of Ultron, Dark Knight Rises, and Shrek 2 finishes out the top 10. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry, but I wanted to look at that because that was a big reason why I had such a huge chip on my shoulder against this movie. And of course and I try not to do this, but then again, I'm still in that generation of people who is obsessed with internet, and I'm on the internet a lot, and I'm reading stuff on the internet. I feel like I'm absorbing information, and I realize that some information is not true. Some information is more, what would you call it, like editorializing and opinionation and all that kind of stuff. But I still like to absorb that stuff as much as possible. So in the end, I was pulling in all this information and stories and opinion from other people. Oh, well, this story is ripping off something like Fern Gully. Like, I guess that's some old animated movie that I've never had any interest in seeing, and even when I see it for sale in Walmart or online or whatever, I'm like, no, I don't want to watch that. It just looks like some stupid little forest fairy movie, and that doesn't appeal to me in any way. But a lot of people say that Avatar rips that off. A lot of people say that Avatar is borrowed from tons of other movies, which I'm sure that it has. Lots of movies borrow from other films and other sources. Lots of directors and writers and producers want to borrow from and pay tribute to and have an homage to some other thing that inspired them, or, you know, that just entertained them in the past. There's nothing wrong with that, but when people were saying that this was kind of like the Fern Gully movie in a live action, because this movie is CG heavy to the max. When they say it's borrowing from something else and it's just putting it in a different, mode of watching, somewhat live action and CG, then I think, well, why do I want to watch that? Why would I want to watch, anything that's basically already been done before? And so I was heavily clouded by people, dogging it for that, and the James Cameron top film, blah, 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 all that kind of crap. I was like, that kind of an almost poison was running through my veins for this movie. And then I have to admit, for whatever reason or another, maybe it's the same reason why I play a video game 10 years ago and I struggle with a boss and I'm so mad at it and I'm so fed up with it and I put it away and I don't touch it, and then I come back years later and maybe, I'm not as frustrated with it, I'm not as put out with it, and I sit down with it and somehow or another I beat it on the first or second try, and I'm just like, wow, what was that all about? Some reason in the last, I'd say 4, 5, 6 months of seeing Avatar sit on a shelf down at Walmart, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I've kind of maybe given this an unfair shake. Why don't I just watch it and see what all the fuss is about? See if it would be something I'd be interested in. What's the harm in just watching this and giving it a chance? And I came awfully close several times to just buying the movie. But my old friend Voodoo back here, which I think my TV is now in screensaver mode, but Voodoo had Avatar on there. I had some credit on there. Said, screw it. Let's just rent it. Tomorrow, basically being the last day of the month that I could watch it, why I keep putting these movies off till the last minute, I don't know. But I finally sat down and watched it today. Sorry this is taking so long, but I just needed to build up to the point, because that's, for me, for the last 6 years, it's been building up to this point. Just stop being an ass, watch the movie. So I did. Just got done watching it like 10, 15 minutes ago. So here's my thoughts. I'm not going to get into the long, drawn-out explanation that I sometimes do of a movie. If you don't know what Avatar is about by this point, then I don't know why you would be watching this video. But just to put it plainly, this movie is so full of statements and messages about like the environment and the military and race relations and all these different things. And that's basically what this movie is about. Only it's with aliens, but aliens that are so... It was, other than them being tall and blue and flying around on weird creatures, this could have been Native Americans. This could have been tribal clans in Africa or something. It could have been indigenous people of this planet that just seem alien to those of us who are English-speaking or white people in America or whatever. And I'm not going to get into all that because I'm not qualified to talk about those kinds of things. I just understand that that's what they were going for in this movie. They were making lots of statements about consumerism and saving the world and the environment and people who, just because they're different, aren't necessarily not people, yada, yada, yada. Only this took place on either a planet or a moon surrounding a planet. They called it Pandora, and there was a much bigger world in the sky. Looked like or reminded me of like Jupiter or Saturn. I don't know if Pandora is actually one of the moons of one of those planets, and that's what they were saying. I don't know. I guess I don't really care. But it took place on this little planet. They obviously made some like references or just like references to humans tapping out all the resources of Earth, like something you would have seen in WALL-E, and having to go out into the universe and find new resources and new planets. And apparently most of the people wanted to go and plunder those planets instead of studying them, sharing them, whatever. And it follows this Marine whose brother had been a part of this program to kind of infiltrate and investigate and research the Na'vi, the natives to this planet. And somehow or another, this guy's brother had died, and he could that's a poor choice of words because he's paralyzed from the waist down, but he could move into his brother's role and take over controlling one of these avatars of the Na'vi people. And then he goes in, and at first he's a Marine, and he's supposed to check things out and do recon and all that kind of stuff for the Marines who want to go in and forcefully take the resources that these people are living within, where the researchers kind of want to infiltrate them but peacefully resolve and move them somewhere else. And, okay, so this is going to tap into one of the first complaints that I have with the movie, and that is that it's such a trope in so many different kinds of movies to be like, I'm a person, but I'm going to disguise myself and infiltrate, and I'm not going to get emotionally involved or attached. And then they do, and they fall in love with somebody, and they fall in love with this group, this family, this community, this world, this whatever. And then in the end, when they realize that what they've done is going to cause doom and despair and destruction and death, they're like, oh my God, I'm sorry, but yes, I did know. And it breaks hearts, and people are upset and pissed off, yada, yada, yada. Sometimes in a movie, it's exactly that. Sometimes in a movie, it's, well, me and this other person made a bet. We would be the first person to take you out on a date or kiss you or have sex with you. And then I got to know you and I fell in love with you and I didn't want to do the thing anymore. You know, it's just been done across the years many, many times. So it was sad to see this big budget production that had all this hype and it had such a basic storyline premise that I think should be eliminated from movies. It's so old and tired. But whatever, it's there. Another complaint that I had, and it still remained a complaint by the end of the movie. I mentioned it already before. I didn't think the CG in this movie was really all that great. for a movie that was so intensively based around all the CG. Sure, the planet looks amazing. The things that you don't really, the things that you don't really, I guess the things that you take for granted, like, oh, it's a wall and that's a plant and that's a cloud, whatever. Those things always look amazing in movies like this. But it's the things that in the end, when you really spend a lot of time looking at them, everybody looks at people's faces. Everybody looks at their animals' faces. They look at pictures of stuff, and if there isn't like a bird or a giraffe or a cat or a person in the middle of it, they don't really care about the background. So the CG in movies, epic movies, Jurassic World to Star Wars to whatever, when they look into the background, they're just like, wow, that's amazing. But when you're looking into the face of something, like there were these dog-like creatures that come after Jake Sully, that's the main character in the movie, when he has become the Na'vi, one of the Na'vi, and he's out in the forest by himself, and these dog things come after him. They just looked, in my opinion, horrible. This nasty, blobby, globular thing. It's not like they were trying to really look for like an organism of some sort. And these blue and yellow, weirdish looking things that another character movie called lemurs, basically like lemurs or monkeys, they looked horrible. Those things looked just a smidge better than the freaking wide-eyed alien from Lost in Space, if anybody's seen that movie from the late 90s. I really liked that movie, but this weird monkey-like alien that they introduced in that with these huge eyes, they were atrocious. And these only looked a couple notches better than that. They were really bad, in my opinion. Some of the flying things were okay. These things that were supposed to look like horses, and I swear they made the same exact sound that like the raptors in the Jurassic Park movies did. They weren't they weren't horrible, but they were pretty subpar in my opinion. And the Navis themselves just looked too liquidy and stuff. They're having a hard time with CGI, in my opinion, in making things look like solid physical things and not something that's all liquidy, like, clay that's made with the computer. I don't know if I'm describing that right, but I was kind of disappointed with the Na'vi. Their eyes would change size so easily, like it didn't make any sense to me. Every once in a while a shot would look pretty decent of a Na'vi face, the emotion or whatever would come through. But I would say like 80% of the time the Na'vis from all angles, directions, and sizes on screen looked bad. And I was, kind of saddened by that because you spend so much time. This is a movie that's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. You spend a lot of time looking at these creatures, the Na'vi, the indigenous nature of the planet, and I just thought it could have been a whole lot better. I can't even imagine what it would be like to watch this movie in 3D. I hate 3D. I don't want to ever watch a movie in 3D. And to imagine seeing these blobby, globular looking things jumping out at me in 3 dimensions, I probably would have been super turned off by that. So, what else? Well, some of the characters. Okay, I really liked the character of Jake Sully. I have to go back because I don't want to mess up his name. I want to say Sam Worthington. Oh, come on. Yes, okay, good. I was right. Sam Worthington, who plays Jake Sully, thought he did a really good job in the movie, but maybe it was the writing for his character. Like, he seemed like the Jughead type at the beginning, but it didn't take very long before he was just like, oh, look, these plants light up when I touch them, and oh, these people are really interesting, and they're going to be kind of hard-assed towards me and all that, but I don't know, I'm just really drawn into all this. And he just never really seemed like he was on the same page as the military people who wanted him to get him all this intel and whatnot. He was happy about the idea that he was going to get his legs healed so that as a human being, he would be able to walk again. But at the same time, he's in the Avatar and he's running around and climbing and stuff. So you could just tell almost from the beginning that this guy was going to be totally, boom, I just want to be one of these people. Which was just kind of odd, I guess, in my opinion. It was just a little odd. But I still liked his character. Zoe Saldana played the lady whose name all of a sudden I just can't remember. You never see her as a human. She is Neytiri. And you knew that there was going to be the love thing between Jake Sully's character and her. They even as much as they tried to kind of, make her hard ass towards him at the beginning and near the end. One of my least favorite characters was played by Sigourney Weaver. She played this scientist named Grace, who, like, the moment she's up and out of her cryo sleep chamber or whatever, she wanted a cigarette. And she was just, like, so rough and nasty in my eyes, and yet she was going to be somebody that Jake really leaned on in the end, even though she kind of hated him at the first. And Michelle Rodriguez was decent in the movie, but she's barely in it. Stephen Lang, I imagine Stephen Lang is the guy who was the overbearing Colonel Miles Quaritch. Yeah. He reminded me a lot of Vincent D'Onofrio's character from Jurassic World. Just like my dick is so big, and I'm a soldier, and I'm a warrior, and all this crap, and I was just like, Giovanni Ribisi plays some sort of says here, corporate administrator for the RDA mining operation. Man, I like Giovanni Ribisi a lot, but every character that he plays has kind of got this weird voice. Man, we're just gonna go out there and take what we want. Oh, it was just like ridiculous. And there was a lot of other good actors and stuff in there, but the acting was like, to me, it was like a mixed bag. There were some really good performances, or at least some people who made me care about them, and then some people who I was just turned off from the beginning. Let's see, what else could I say about it? I know everything I ever think about during the movie, I lose it by the time I sit down over here. I guess I could mention the fact that, despite the fact that nothing was said beforehand that I know of, all of a sudden in the last year or so, they've announced that they're going to do 3 more movies, which blows me away. It says the first one will release in 2017, so 2 more years from now, 8 years after the first movie came out, we're going to get another movie, but then 2 more after that. I'm not even sure where they go with the story from this point. Do these people come back? Because at the end, of course, everybody wins, and basically Jake Sully becomes an actual Na'vi, and all the mining people and military people who were left over after the big epic battle at the end are sent off the planet. So what happens in these next 3 movies? They continuously get bombarded once again by new forces, new armies. Do they deal with stuff on the planet? They showed that there were a lot more people, a lot more clans of the Na'vi on this planet than just the one that most of the movie is focused around. So they delve into that. I don't know what they do with it. I guess I'm just going to have to keep my eyes open on this one and wonder what happens. But I guess I have made the decision I will probably buy this movie at some point on Blu-ray. Despite all of its issues that I had, I think that it's worth owning it and watching it from time to time. I guess there was one thing I didn't really mention. Maybe I'm just kind of afraid to get into this because once again I don't feel qualified to talk about this. But I just hate the way that they were on an alien world, and they have these aliens that look alien, but the whole story just seems like it was scooped right out of the history of Native Americans and African tribes and any other kind of indigenous natives to our planet. Maybe I did kind of touch on that earlier, but I don't like the fact that they couldn't go to a planet somewhere and come up with a story that is not inspired by our planet and our history and all that. Not that there's anything wrong with doing stuff like that, but if you're going to do that, why not just set it on our planet and create a world right here with us instead of saying, well, they got to have blue skin instead of red skin, Native Americans, not in the horrible racial way of saying that, like the sports team names. But that's all that they really did, in my opinion, was they just created Native Americans and tribal people on a planet, and yet it was still the same kind of story that takes place here. If you're going to go to the planet, you could probably touch on environmental things and indigenous people issues without making them seem so much like they are, like their history and their customs and their culture was scooped from our planet. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. But that's all I really want to say about that. And that's probably all that I have to say about this movie. Maybe more than I expected to say. But I did like it. And I would, like I said, like to pick it up and own it. And watch it again someday for shits and giggles, I guess. But anyway, I guess that's my thoughts on Avatar before this goes even any longer than it already has. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.